guys, back out from a pat here. I am back in my vegetable garden. We have a ton to do, guys. In today's video, I'm gonna harvest some nasturtiums to make some pesto. And guys, I had no idea how nutritious nasturtium, both the flower and the leaves are. So we're gonna harvest some nasturtiums. Then we're gonna be pulling out half of this bed, guys. I'm gonna be pulling out the nasturtiums, and we're gonna be checking on the tomatoes because I think it was yesterday I posted a video showing I did a tomato harvest, and the plants were really very diseased. That tomato harvest was actually done 6 days ago, so I'm gonna show you in just 6 days the huge difference in the plants. After I sprayed it with the seaweed and aspirin, you're gonna see in just 6 days how tremendously different those plants are. Then I'm going to show you how I revitalize my soil, because we're going to be doing some transplants for peppers, cucumbers, and whatever else I can find to transplant. So guys, I'm going to set the camera up and do some harvesting. Then we're going to pull these out, and then I'll show you how to refresh the soil. Let's get started. So you can see here I have my nasturtium flowers. I think I'm gonna make some nasturtium butter, so I'm gonna make butter and infuse some nasturtium flowers in it. And then I have these to make some pesto, just like how you make pesto with basil. You can use nasturtium leaves. That nasturtium leaves have like a slightly mustardy taste with a little spice, so that would make a nice change for pesto. So now guys, as beautiful as these flowers look, I'm gonna take out most of these nasturtiums because I am ready to put my peppers in, and it's a little bit too overwhelming in the bed. It's like taking over everything. So we're gonna pull these up now, and we're gonna check on what's there. So I took out a whole ton of nasturtiums, and you can see they're still green, still looking great. Oh, I got some more of these flowers, but I left some in there because I have to admit, guys, I haven't had one pest apart from disease. Like I did have some fungus, which you saw on the last video, but I haven't had any pests, not one hornworm. So I definitely think having the nasturtiums and the zinnias and all these flowers in there really helped. However, it was choking everything out, and plus it was so thick that will cause fungus. But guys, I have got to show you my tomatoes, which you couldn't even see properly. So on that video I mentioned that my favorite tomatoes are thornburn tomatoes, and now they are actually ripening up. So let's pick a couple ones. These are actually fully ripe. So even though it looks like orange, this is thornburn terracotta tomatoes. So they don't get red, they get more like of an orange color. Absolutely, I think these are the best tomatoes I've ever had. This one is a little bit turned, not quite fully ripe, but I'm gonna pick these. Yep, I'm gonna pick these. But guys, I have got to show you. Look at these. These are the tomatoes that I said basically grew wild. Now that I pulled everything up, look at the amount of tomatoes I have in here, guys. Look at the tomatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest some of these tomatoes. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Tons of tomatoes. Tons of tomatoes all over this vine. These are either sweet 1 million or Everglades. I kind of feel like they're sweet 1 million. They're very similar, very sweet. Or you know what? It could be a combination of two. Last year I grew sweet 1 million here. So most likely these are the seeds that popped up. Wow. But I'm gonna go ahead and harvest this. Ooh, look at this. Bunches and bunches. You see? I couldn't see what was going on underneath all that. All those nasturtiums. But we have lots of tomatoes here. I'll harvest this after. So we're gonna talk about what I'm gonna do now to get the soil going again. And first of all, before I just add stuff, I'm gonna check the soil and show you how I check the soil to see if it needs any topping up. Wow. Actually, before we start topping up the soil, let's check out these tomato plants that 6 days ago I sprayed it with seaweed and aspirin. And I'll try and put a clip here to show you, or you guys can go back and watch the video I posted a couple days ago showing you how absolutely diseased the plants were. So these are the same tomato plants from 1 week ago. You remember these, half of the leaves were dried up, yellow, spotted leaves. And I sprayed it with seaweed and aspirin. And guys, I am so glad that I didn't rip them out. You know, they are looking a lot better. What I did was I came in and I cut back all the lower limbs. There is a little bit of sign of the leaf spots still. Of course, these are the older leaves. But the tomatoes are hanging in there. There are new blossoms coming out. So in 6 days, guys, it's definitely turning around. Here's the other one that was diseased, and you can still see signs of the disease here. But overall, guys, these are healthy, happy tomato plants. Look at that. New blossoms coming out. There was no need to rip these plants out. And I just want to show you this, guys, because a lot of times we rip our plants out too soon. The weather is still cool, even though we're here in Central Florida. Today it's only like 70-something degrees. So this is perfect tomato weather. Then of course I'm gonna call these my sweet 1 million, since that's what I think they are. These volunteers, extremely healthy, extremely healthy, even despite the nasturtiums taking them over, giving me bearing fruit profusely. And I can tell you, throughout my entire garden, guys, I have just tons of tomatoes growing everywhere throughout my garden. All right, so we're gonna check now. Oh my gosh, I need another hand. We're gonna check now on the soil. We're gonna check now on the soil, and then we're gonna see if we need to top this up. I'm gonna show you exactly how I do it. And I kind of work with what I have. The important thing is making sure that there's enough organic matter in the soil and that the soil isn't hydrophobic. Those are basically what I focus on. Anyway, let's do that. I ended up going back in and pulling out the majority of the nasturtiums, and I also tied up the tomatoes and harvested, you know, a whole lot of tomatoes. So now we have actual space to put some of these pepper plants in. So the very first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else, check the level of the soil, make sure it's not too low. And it's just a few inches below the wood, the top of the wood. So I think that's more than enough. And also you want to make sure your soil isn't hydrophobic. Hydrophobic means it repels water. So you can usually just dig in and look at the quality of the soil. Usually when it's hydrophobic, it's almost like balled up and it's very dry. The soil feels, let me take my glove off. The soil, I can feel life. I can feel life in the soil. There is moisture in the soil. As I dig down underneath the drip line, there is moisture. You want to make sure that the soil can hold the moisture, because the last thing you want to do is plant your seedlings or your seeds and then have them dry out. So because this soil was put in and it was built up like maybe about 5 months ago when I started some seeds, it's still in pretty decent condition. I'm not gonna add any soil to this. I'm gonna just kind of refresh it. So let me show you what I do to refresh. If the level was low on the soil, what I would do is add this or some organic garden soil or organic raised bed mix. It's in a raised bed, so a raised bed mix will be fine. I've been buying this organic garden soil from a local nursery that don't sell raised bed mix. So what I've been doing is buying the garden soil and mixing it to make it a little bit lighter. Not adding that today. What I'm doing is I'm adding two game changers to me. Well, one is definitely a game changer, my favorite, and that's earthworm castings. I normally get the wiggle worm earthworm castings on Amazon, but this is my first time trying worm organic, and this is worm castings. I bought it at Ace Hardware. I am trying this. I tried it a couple months ago. Seems to be all right. So I bought another bag. So I'm putting earthworm castings, and I'm mixing it with mushroom compost. Both of them are full of nutrients for the soil. Both of them condition the soil. They help with water retention. They help with soil structure, aeration. There are a whole list of benefits to adding earthworm casting and mushroom compost. So I added probably about half a bag of the mushroom compost, and you can see what it looks like. You can see what the mushroom compost looks like. And then this here on this side, I probably added 1/3 bag of earthworm castings. Also, what I'm gonna add to this, and it's, as I say, guys, I do a lot of what I have on what I have available. Eggshells are very good for calcium in the soil, and calcium is something you need whenever you're planting tomatoes, peppers, anything that would especially tomatoes and peppers that would have blossom end rot, which is caused by calcium deficiency. I like to add eggshells to the garden. So these are just some ground eggshells that I keep. I always have ground up eggshells. Dehydrate them, put them in the oven sometimes and just toast them up, and then I grind them up. I did a video recently showing the 2 ways to use your eggshells to prevent blossom end rot. Another one is soaking it in a little vinegar and water solution, and that makes it immediately available to the plants to prevent blossom end rot. So I'm just shaking a little bit out into the soil. Adding it like this to the soil is a little bit slower availability. It takes maybe 4 to 6 months to completely break down to be available to the plants. Adding it in liquid form, spraying it on the plants is more immediately available to prevent blossom end rot. But I don't mind this, guys. I'm just planting my peppers now. By the time they start fruiting, this will be more broken down. Plus my soil is already in pretty good condition. Adding this every 6 months or so just makes sure that my calcium is always up in the soil. Another thing I like to add when I'm up in my soil is just adding some spent coffee grounds. Coffee grounds are high in nitrogen. It has some other minerals, but you know, this is just a way to add more organic matter. Also, coffee grounds, earthworms love coffee grounds, guys, so we want to encourage those earthworms. So I'm adding a little coffee grounds to this. And then another thing that I don't have right now, that is excellent, that I add whenever I have it, is my fireplace ashes. So excellent to add to any, whether it's your fruit trees or your vegetable garden. Really excellent. Marie from Farming on the Rocks just did a video about the benefits of adding wood ash to your garden. You guys can go check out her channel. She has a really amazing channel. She does an amazing job with her tropical fruits and vegetables. This is black soldier fly larvae. This actually is excellent as a insect repellent, especially if you use this as in compost tea. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit in the soil. I did that when I set up my my soil back in October, and I had just about no, I don't think I had any insects at all. So I think all this is a part of why. I'm just lightly sprinkling this because I do plan on making, oh, it's all stuck. I do plan on making some compost tea soon, so you guys will see that video. So a little bit of black soldier fly larvae, but that's just totally optional, guys. I have it, so I'm using it. All right, so I'm gonna put my glove on, mix this up, and we're just gonna sprinkle this along the top of the soil. I had added a couple handfuls of dried up composted chicken manure that I had. So I just sprinkled like maybe 2 handfuls of that dried up manure in here and mix it up. I mixed up everything, and here's what the soil looks like. Nice, rich, and black. No fertilizers per se, but just good soil, compost, earthworm castings, and a little bit of chicken manure. So I'm gonna go ahead and spread this lightly, show you how to spread it lightly across the soil. All right, so you just go in, take a shovel, and let's go in and sprinkle the whole bed. So I'm probably, depending on how much soil you have, you can sprinkle maybe even like a 1 inch layer on top. I'm sprinkling around the tomatoes too, because these tomatoes, guys, they're huge and they're heavy eaters, so heavy feeders. So I know that they probably sucked up a lot of the nutrients from the soil, and they're still going. So I want to make sure they have enough to pull from. Next, you just take a little rake and just rake in the top layer. Just kind of rake it in to the soil, rake it in. Then I like to soak it well. So all that the nutrients, the mushroom compost, earthworm castings, you want to make sure it's soaked in. Put a layer of straw and then soak the straw again. The mulch keeps the soil from eroding. It keeps the moisture in. It protects the soil. It eventually breaks down and also feeds the soil. So mulching is very important. Do not skip this step. Moving on to this bed next, but I'll do that off camera. This was my Scotch bonnet bed, but it's totally taken over with the nasturtiums and the cosmos. The cosmos I'll leave, the nasturtiums have to go over there. That's my ginger bed, also ginger and some turmeric, also completely taken over. So I'm gonna clean those up offline. I have a video coming up this week showing you guys how to plant cassava sticks. Several of you bought cassava sticks, so I want to make sure that you guys know how to plant them. So that's coming up next, and probably do a ginger harvest soon. So be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. All right, guys, see you next video. Bye now.